Harvey's Christmas Ale.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. Why am I drinking a Christmas ale in March? Well, there's a reason. I was in Tunbridge Wells the other day. I was dropping a stepdaughter off to a job interview, and I went into, despite the name and despite the fucking sign outside saying Noble Wines and a big grape on this sign, I went in there because I did see from the window that they was selling beer, and I happened to notice this stuff, and it's the Christmas ale. And I can't remember whether I've reviewed this before, but any Christmas ale that comes from Harvey's. Percy, what are you doing? Look, he can smell a good beer. Come on, mate. In case you haven't met Percy before, this is Percy. He's the channel mascot. Get out of it. I know where that tongue's been. Walking past the shop, I saw this in the window. This is one of the first beers I spied, so I thought I've definitely got to go in there. And I'm glad I did, because this is the Christmas ale. Now, if you look on their website, it says that they brew this at Christmas, but they sell it all year round. And there's a reason they do that, is because this stuff will last. And if you look at the top of the cap, I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this, but this has got, I think, March. This has got December 2023, so it's perfectly in date. And to be honest, because there's so much ethanol in there, you could probably leave it for a couple more years and it would still be good. It would probably taste different, but he wants to get down there, doesn't he? You're an awkward little git, ain't you? But the style of beer is, and they do mention it on the side of the bottle as well, it's in the barley wine style, and if you're going to be drinking that stuff, it's going to be hefty in ethanol, and it's going to last a while. And as I say, it will probably taste a little bit different. I'm not sure, it doesn't mention whether this is bottle conditioned or not, but if there are yeasty, or if there is yeast in here, it will certainly ferment if you leave it in the bottle. But there's a good tradition with this brewery, and I do like them, and I've tried some of their other beers, I've reviewed them on the channel, and they're generally good. Now, they're a Sussex-based brewery, and I'm saying a few weeks ago, it was before Christmas, me and the missus met up with a mate, and we went down to Hastings, stayed there the night, and we drank in one of the local pubs, and they had the Harvey's Old on there, which is their take on an old ale. It's a lower ABV old ale, and it was really good. On cask, me and my mate, Fatty, and that is his name, Fatty, we more or less demolished what was left in the cask. I don't know how much but we basically fucking drank it dry, and we did get through a lot that night. But it was like a session old ale, but on cask it tasted really good. I think I've reviewed it on the channel, or have I can't remember, but it tasted really good. And as I say, Harvey's are a good brewery. I like what they do. I've tried their best bitter. I've tried the barley wine they do. I think it's called a Prince of Denmark. That was really good as well. So if that tastes anything like the Prince of Denmark, then it's going to be a real good one. Now, Harvey's have got a quite a funny history. They had a little bit of a spat with Green King, because at one point, I don't know whether you've heard the story about it or not, but there's a Green King pub in I think it's Hastings or somewhere in Sussex, I can't remember. It's not fucking Brighton, I know that, but they were a Green King pub, and they were selling Green King IPA or Abbott Ale or something like that. But they started selling some Harvey's beer, and everybody was going for the Harvey's beer because it is a quality beer. And they weren't selling their own beer. You know, the Green King stuff, rightly so, it just wasn't getting bought because rightly so, it's a good beer, and punters will vote with their pockets. If your beer's shit and there's a better option, people are going to buy the better option. So some fucking marketing twat of a manager went to the pub and said, right, no more Harveys. And the locals blockaded the pub, and the landlord was with them as well. And they had to relent because the pub was just not taking any money at all since they stopped doing all the Harvey's beer. So, yeah, that was one in the eye for Green King. And to be honest, Green King beers, I don't think they're that great. They use some sort of, I don't know whether it's the yeast or some kind of additive, like, I don't know, it's like a syrupy type additive. And you can get the taste in all their beers. And it's like, I think they put it in there to mask just their poor brewing, and I don't like it, to be honest. Speckled hen, old speckled hen, crafty hen, you just get that flavour all the way through. The Abbott Reserve has got it as well, and I'm not a fan. So I can see why Harvey's did get one over on Green King, which I think is brilliant. Another thing that strikes me about this is in a 500ml bottle, which is great for a 7.5% beer. Now, I know the barley wine that Adnams do, that's in a 330ml bottle, that's 11%, so hence the reason that's in there. But I think, to be honest, I think 7.5% for this type of beer, because it's very rich, and it's, well, I'm assuming it's very rich. I haven't tasted this one before, I don't think, but this style is very rich and it's quite sweet. It may be a little bit too much for some people. So maybe putting it in, well, they do it in 275ml bottles, but putting it in a 500ml bottle, I don't know. I don't know whether that's a good move or a bad move. If it tastes good, then it's a good move. So, without further ado, let's see if it does taste good. Right, quickly before we get onto it. This is, as I say, 500ml bottle, it's 7.5%. On the side it says it's traditional barley wine. This is the biscuit malt and vinous fruit palate is balanced by a strong hop bitterness. It is warming and reflects the spirit of Christmas. This does sound like my kind of beer, certainly my English style of beer that I like. It's obviously brewed by Harvey's from Lewes in Sussex. Strong dark barley wine. So they are calling it a barley wine, and that's bang on. That's what a Christmas ale should be. It should be strong in alcohol, it should be dark, and it should be fruity, just like a barley wine, and that's what they've done. Now, if you want to compare it with something, it should taste like the Christmas cake that you eat, and because it's tasting like that, it's got that very, when they say vinous fruits, of course they mean like stuff like raisins, dates, sultanas, the sort of stuff you find in Christmas cake. That's what it's sort of mimicking in liquid form. But it goes really well with cheese, as does Christmas cake. If you ask any northerner, certainly people from Yorkshire, they eat Christmas cake with cheese. Sounds disgusting, but try it. It's all right with some strong cheese, Stilton, or maybe even some mature cheddar. It does taste nice, especially with beer. Mix all three together. Fucking hell, you own for a treat. And yeah, that's about it really. I know it's March. I know I'm reviewing a Christmas beer in March. Why not, indeed? It's a barley wine for all intents and purposes. Now, this weren't cheap. This was £4.20, and it's still got the price on it. But if it's good, I don't mind paying £4.20 for a beer of this type. So let's shut up. Let's get it in the glass. Right, there's nothing on the cap apart from the sell-by date, which says December 2023. So this is perfectly good. I would argue that it'd be perfectly good for another couple of years after that. But I'm going to drink it now, like the greedy bastard that I am. I'm going to pour it like that because that head is not going to last long with 7.5% of alcohol in this. Yeah, that looks like a massive head on it, but don't worry, that's going to go quite rapidly. Oh yeah. I don't know if it's my nose, but I'm a little bit bunged up, but I am getting some nice fruit on there. Not as much ethanol as I thought I'd get. Let me pour a little bit more in. Maybe the head's blocking most of the aroma from the actual beer. Oh yeah. Now that, when they say vinous, obviously that's a way to describe vine fruit and potentially wine as well. That does smell slightly like a very strong red wine mixed with Christmas cake from the bottle. That's what I should be getting from the glass, but I think there's just a little bit too much head on that at the moment anyway. Oh no, maybe not. It's starting to come through now. It's slightly sweeter in the glass, but it looks just what I'd expect from a barley wine. Nice sort of beige tan head and a ruby chestnut style body colour. There is a sourness to it that you would expect from, say, a red wine or something like that. Not that I fucking drink wine, you know my views on wine.
And tip 4, men don't order wine, alright?
But I'm definitely getting that. I'm going to be interested to see what the actual flavour is, because this should be not sour. It should be, if anything, a little bit sweet. Now they do mention the hop bitterness on this as well. Don't mention what hops that they've got in there, which is a shame, but yeah, there's no ethanol. I'm surprised there's no real big ethanol flavours on, or aromas I should say, on that, because at 7.5% you're getting into that territory where you should be getting something like that. You certainly get that on Belgian beer. Not on this. Oh well. Let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. Oh, that finish. There's definitely invert sugar on this. Definitely getting that. And a big biscuit malt finish. Let me dive in again. Yeah. Oh, the biscuit malt finish on this is big. Very big. There's a slight hint of ethanol, but it's not big. The invert sugar is what's giving it that biscuit malt more emphasis on there. But there is a little suggestion of hop bitterness on that finish. And I have to say, this is nice. Oh, that fruit. Yeah, that fruit is big. It's sweet fruit, sweet dark fruit. So if you can imagine dates, you know the dates you get at Christmas, you got that. You've got raisin on there as well. So effectively Christmas cake without the marzipan and the icing. Very smooth. Starting to get a little bit more of the ethanol on there now, but it's super rich. To be honest, one of these would be enough for me. It's just so full-bodied that I don't think I could drink much more of it. And there's a fair amount of invert sugar, which does complement it. They've got a really relatively decent balance on there, but I think it would be a little bit too much for me. Obviously, if it was in 275ml bottles, then maybe I could do a couple of them, but yeah, 500ml, one bottle would be enough for me. But it's lovely and malty, lovely big biscuit malt finish, slight hop bitterness, but just big fruit. And it tastes lovely. I don't know whether this will go over Christmas dinner. I think it'd just be too much. but with a little bit of cheese or something like that, one of these would do me. It's lovely. It's really nice. Very much in the barley wine style, I will say that. On the lower end of that sort of scale. It's not got the big ethanol seam that you find from the stronger ABVs, barley wines and stuff like that. This is just on the cusp of suggesting ethanol on there. It's nice though. Nice and sweet, definitely, from that invert sugar. They've done quite well with that. And yeah, this is typical of what I'd expect from a Christmas beer. Now, I don't know whether you see the Christmas beer reviews that I did, but it was basically a Christmas beer hamper from the House of Trembling Madness. To say it was a disappointment would be a little bit of an understatement. The only one that stood out for me, again from another great brewery, the Great Yorkshire Brewery, was their Christmas beer. That was really nice, and they put that star aniseed in it. I think it's basically like a mint type aniseed type flavour. Star aniseed, I think it's called, or something like that. Aniseed or something. But that was the only decent one. And then they put loads of other shit in there, Christmas IPAs and stuff. Fuck off, you fucking twats. I've still got a bottle of that Christmas IPA in there. I just cannot bring myself to drink it. It's just fucking nonsense. IPAs have got nothing to do with Christmas. This, for me, certainly when it comes to English beer, this is a Christmas drink, a winter warmer, a barley wine, an old ale. It's that style, and it's really nice, and it's one of my favourites. And this is pretty good. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's the best. I've tasted better. They're calling it a barley wine, so I'm going to compare it to other barley wines, and I'm going to compare it to the Adnams Tally Ho, which for me is probably one of the best English barley wines that I've tasted. Beers that have classed themselves as a barley wine, it's certainly, for me, the best. This is good, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's up there with the Adnams Tally Ho. That's just an intensely flavour-packed, high alcohol barley wine, and it's lovely. This, I would say it's a poor imitation. It's a good imitation. It's just not the real thing, if you know what I mean. On its own merits, though, it's good. Reminds me a lot of a sort of an old peculiar on steroids. It's got that big seam of invert sugar that runs through it. It gives it a nice sweet flavour. Gives it a lot. There's a lot of body on this as well, and I'm gulping it down now, and I shouldn't really be doing that at 7.5%. And it is quite filling as well. It's in, you know, if you wanted to compare it to a German beer, you'd be looking at a sort of a Doppelbock, that type of thing. And to be honest, if a craft brewer brewed something like this and called it a Doppelbock, I wouldn't say it's the worst attempt. It does. It actually, with that sweetness going on in it, it does put me in mind of a German Doppelbock, which is lovely. You know, I mean, Doppelbock is a great style. One of my favourite styles of German beer. I'm saying one of my favourite styles. Everything's my favourite style of German beer. Weiss beers, Doppelbocks, Icebox. I love them all. But yeah, this is good. It's a good one, and I wouldn't have expected anything less from Harvey's, because Harvey's are a pretty good brewery. So what's the verdict on Harvey's Brewery Christmas Ale? Well, I'm reviewing a Christmas Ale in March, and it's sort of still cold out there, so it's still in keeping with what this beer is intended to do, i.e. it being a winter warmer. We're just heading into spring now, but I like it. It's very nice, quite reminiscent, as I just mentioned, of a German Doppelbock. There's certain people that may not like this because it may be just a little bit too sweet, maybe a little bit too intense for them. The invert sugar is something that is a love-hate thing. If you have, I mean, when you see them high alcohol beers, and I'm not saying this disparagingly or looking down my nose at people, but they would say, oh, it's very treacly. It's not treacle, it's a mixture of ethanol and invert sugar. And some people just don't like that. Don't get me wrong, some macro brewers do that and they get it badly wrong and it just tastes disgusting, and I get what them people are saying, because it does taste like treacle and it's not very nice. But when it's done right, i.e. when you have Belgian doubles, Belgian quadruples, English barley wines, English winter warmers, English old ales, this style of dark, high alcohol, sweet beer, then if you get a good one, it really is good. I mean, and the taste does get a little bit getting used to. If you're a lager drinker and you like your lighter beers, it's probably not going to be for you. But if you're an ale drinker, I mean, this is an absolute taste explosion. And this stuff has won quite a lot of awards as well. And it's in keeping what Harveys do, because Harveys are, in my opinion, a very good brewer. And I like this, and I'm going to savour this. What mark will I give it? Well, it's definitely good. I mean, it's going to get a high mark. I just don't think it's the best Christmas ale that I've tasted. I think the Sam Smith's Winter Warmer is a pretty good one. Or Winter Welcome, I should say. Not Winter Warmer, Winter Welcome. Well, the style could be a Winter Warmer. That is a style of beer. It is nice. I think if I gave it an 8.5, I'd say that would be fair, because it's doing everything right. It's dark, it's high ABV, it's got the big fruit, it's got a lovely biscuit malt finish, which really did surprise me, because normally you don't get that. It's normally the invert sugar and the ethanol is what finishes it. There's a little hint of hot bitterness on there as well, which is really nice. And yeah, Harveys have pretty much nailed that style and got it more or less spot on. And it's nice. So yeah, I think 8.5, a solid 8.5 is a good mark. And if you're on your travels, apparently you can buy this all year round. Get some of this, save it for Christmas. Eat it with some Christmas cake. A little bit of cheese. It's not alien. Thinly sliced, strong cheese. Some of this, a bit of Christmas cake. Fucking handsome. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10. Recommended. And remember, beer is working class champagne.